This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneurs the Playbook, and I have Loren Lahav. And I can list out author, world famous speaker, best-selling authors 4 times, but most importantly, you're a beautiful badass. And even more importantly than that, you are a mother of 4 entrepreneurs.
Amen.
Which I thought you were going to say, my most important job is being a mother. I'm like, yeah. Every mom said that. But then you said, mother of 4 entrepreneurs. Why is that so important to you?
Oh, because, I think that I have I think of my mom. She was an entrepreneur from when I was my dad. He had a career, he was an optometrist for 52 years. And my mom started at the flea market.
Wow.
My mom got us up at 5 a.m. no matter what the weather was. And I was like, oh my God, I love that. Like, even though my dad was able to provide for us, my mom knew she needed to teach us some of those skills about just hard work and earnership. I think earnership is the biggest thing. And I wanted my kids to have that feeling of how proud. Remember layaway?
Yeah, of course.
Oh my gosh. Like,
everything of mine had to be layaway. I couldn't afford anything.
So I just love how my kids feel, when knowing that they've got this no matter what their age. I mean, Josh started early selling at Robin's events. He sold, what was it, raisins on a paperclip for and some people were paying like $20, but it gave him the confidence. That's really why it's so important for me.
And my first entrepreneurial job was to go caroling as a little Jewish boy, and I had such a bad voice that people would pay me to shut up. So it was a different entrepreneurial spin on things. Moving forward, though, there's a lot of different transitions that are occurring within women entrepreneurship. I'm a chancellor of Junior Achievement University with a lot of our friends, like Bob Proctor and Mary Morrissey and Jack and Mark Victor Hansen, all your friends. But the main thing that I saw being a father of 3 daughters and a son is that over 50% of the entrepreneurs in Junior Achievement for the first time are women. Why do you think there's this shift that's going on and allowing, which I think will quickly change the number of CEOs that are women, because more entrepreneurs are women, and that's where CEOs come from.
Right.
And everyone talks about colleges and this, why 50% of the women have been in colleges for years, why aren't they CEOs? Because that's not where CEOs come from.
Right.
It's really not.
Right.
CEOs come from going to swap meets, and now we've turned the corner for you in that mission of entrepreneurship, because you are a beautiful badass and really portray to me what the feminine side of things should be in the entrepreneur side, because entrepreneurs change the world. Where do you see it going, and how long will it take?
Well, that's a great question.
It's a long question.
It's a lot in the question. I think there's one, I think that for all of us, I think that, they always say that the success of a country is determined by how you empower the women. Right, and starting earlier. So I love seeing all these I see a lot more mentorship programs happening for women, and I think that now it's like something like 90% of the bullying and harassment used to be woman to woman, and I see that now you start seeing women collaborating a lot more and not so much in competition with each other. And look, we have some amazing role models out there. I mean, you were sharing with me some of the people that you've interviewed as well, and I think it gives people hope. I mean, my mentor for me was Barbara Walters. I just loved her elegance and grace, but also she was kind of like the Velvet Hammer too.
Yeah,
right.
I love that.
And then I was sharing with you about Mary Morrissey. When I would see her, I was like, wow, she's tiny and she can still be powerful as well. So I think that now we're starting to see that, or even just all the women that you even see on social media, they finally have their voice. They say it's okay to have your voice as well.
Yeah,
so.
And I think it's one step farther watching you, and I love, watching you speak. Is there something that else comes to mind before having a voice? It's owning it.
Exactly.
Right? And I think there's a lot of fear of women. The president of my own brand is a woman, and I think the biggest thing that I want her, because she's younger, is I keep really pushing her to understand, own it.
Yes.
Right? Own it. When you own it, the whole world changes. When I started speaking, I was just with, like David, I know Alan Taylor, David Corbin, the Greg Reeds of the world, like first stages I stepped on, and all the comments were, you're not owning the stage.
Yes.
He goes, what are you talking about? You have such deep content and you're inspired, but you're not owning it. You're timid you're almost apologetic about helping people.
Well, that's a really interesting thing because, as you know, I had the honor of launching a program for Tony in Fiji called Life Mastery.
With Tony Robbins.
And
when
Tony
she
Robbins.
says Tony, it's like people that know Barack. Brock and I, okay?
And I was given all of these manuals and videos, and participants were showing up in a couple days, and I'm like, oh my God, there's just like so much to learn and so much to do this. And I'm like, Tony, I don't know if I can do this. I can do, oh my gosh, I don't know. People are probably coming here, they think that you're going to be here, and they're going to get us as me as a facilitator. And I go, you could have picked anybody in the world. I go, why did you pick me? And he goes, Loren, because I knew you'd take care of these people. And I'm like, okay, I know how to do that. And I think when you step into what when you teach what you know, right, and not try to pretend to be someone you're not, is to waste the person you are. And I'm like, I know who I am. I'm a mama. I know how to take care of people. I'll go above and beyond. So I know how to do those things, and that's what I share. I know how my rituals. I heard you talking a little bit about your rituals just right now. And that's what keeps me centered and grounded, and nothing and no one can take that away from me unless I give it to them. And I think that's what you talk about, owning it.
And consistency is tied to owning it. You talked about being prepared. You went through a list of things that you were and very confident in. In fact, my kids will ask me as the stages have got huge for me, how do you go to Sydney Theater and talk to all those people? Aren't you nervous? I said, if I asked you to step on stage with me and clap, would you be nervous? And they said, well, maybe before when I saw the people, but I said, no, on stage, would you be nervous clapping? And they said, no. I said, why? Because they know how to clap and they're confident in it.
Right.
And so I have a real level of confidence. I won't step on stage and talk about something that's not clapping to me.
Amen. I'm all for that too.
Now through that though, you have taken what you talk about, how you empower women and men to another level. Your newest book, which I love because I have one son, and we were discussing how I'm not worried about my daughters because they're beautiful badasses, but I more focus on my son's relationship, inequality, and how that works. In your book is How to Raise a Gentleman.
Yeah, it's called The Courage to Raise a Gentleman.
Courage to Raise a Gentleman.
In honor of my father, because my father was the ultimate gentleman. And every time I was kind of having a hard time with it because I was like trying to break it down into all these principles and everything, interviewing a bunch of people, and I'm like, it's really just doing the right thing. Right? Isn't it really just doing right when you feel like an urge to do something, not just for men, but even for women? I mean, come on, you can't tell me that it doesn't feel nice to do the right thing, right?
And I've made that paradigm shift. I talk about and illuminate the fact that early on in my, quest to make a lot of money to buy my mom a house and a car, which is the right reason, I oversold people, back-end sold, manipulated situations. I find it interesting. Why do you think it takes courage to do the right thing? Why I always say, people say, oh, you're so courageous, you've said the truth, you're so courageous, you did these kind acts behind when nobody was looking. Why
versus just doing it.
Right.
Like
which just keeps just clearing a connection to that which inspired me.
Or picking something up from the floor, or like I'm pushing 5'2", right? And I mean, I'm pushing 5'2", and I mean, I'm like, sometimes I have my suitcase, I'm trying to get on a plane, and I got the bag on my head, and like people are just looking at me.
Is that where I know you from, by the way? Was I the guy helping you with the suitcase?
I will tell you something very interesting, and I don't know, and
you look so familiar. I know we pretend like the first time we met.
So do you really want to know why I know you? I went to an event last year, and you were being interviewed by Scott Duffy, and you pulled out the $100 bill, and you said, who wants the $100 bill? So I just want you to know, I've kept the $100 bill that you gave away from the stage in my wallet this whole time.
I gave you 20 back.
And so, but I've kept the $100 bill with me, and so I was like, oh my gosh, you talk about manifestation, right? And then when Quinn told me that he was going to interview, I go, are you kidding me? I go, that's so crazy. So
that is awesome.
But why I was saying what was interesting was I saw that when I was flying coach, and not a judgment, I'm just saying, I'm not judging, I'm just saying.
Well, you're built for an airplane like me.
Right, so I'm cool, I don't need, I can grow up. But when I was in coach, nobody helped me with my luggage. When I was in first class, it was very interesting. Everybody, and I think it might be the expectations that people have for things, right? So there's this, and maybe that everybody just has this feeling, I don't know what it was, but it was very interesting to me what happened in that moment. And I started noticing it consistently.
What do you feel about frequency? Because that's a big issue for me, is I think first class has a different frequency than coach. And that frequency is an elevated awareness to, what inspires us, what we're currently and always connected to, and other people have more interference or corrosion to that. And is we're here in Las Vegas, I'm here for CES. When I go into different casinos, they have different frequencies. And you can see the frequency of an entire collective consciousness when you go from South Point to Paris to the Wynn to the Encore to the Aria to the Cosmopolitan. They all have different frequencies. In fact, as I noticed it here at CES after all these years, I thought about, because people want to know about how this frequency idea, you can only be aware of that which vibrates equal to or less than you. There's an elevated frequency in first class. I would say that if you want to learn frequency, come to Las Vegas and take note of the different casinos and the different frequencies, and it'll allow you to experience an instrument. It's almost like a museum of frequencies.
It is.
How do you utilize frequency in your success?
I think with awareness. You know, I think most people just aren't aware, or they're not aware of what's going on around them. And if they were to tune in, like it's funny because every day I wake up and I say to myself, today is going to be the best day of my life again. And I look
along with all the other successful people who are having the best day of their life,
and just decide. Like it's a decision of what you do. But and it's funny because when we moved, we live out in Summerlin, and I look out over the Red Rocks. Everyone's like, "Oh, you live in Vegas?" I'm like, "Oh my God!" I wake up every day and I look out over the Red Rocks. I'm like, "Thank you. What a beautiful place." So you talk about frequency. I feel like the frequency's already. You know, I turn the frequency up. Very first thing by what I say, but what I focus on. And then like what I do after that, whether it be meditation, get on my Peloton, whatever that is. So I think the same thing, like you said about the casinos, I definitely feel a different frequency. So the first thing I did when I got here to the Palms was actually I went over to the spa, because I walked in, I'm like, whew. And then I'm like, it was a little much. I just got off a plane and I actually went to the spa, even though it was for 15 minutes, but I just sat. And they have these beautiful crystals. I'm like, oh, okay, I feel good. I'm ready now.
Smells and sounds and all of
Correct.
that. Right.
Yeah.
I call that getting back to center, and there's a physical, spiritual, or emotional way to get back to center, and it's a practice that I have. One of the things, I was here doing an interview with Matt Peralt, who runs this great show here, and he's truly changed his life. And a lot of times you can be that catalyst for someone. You give them an idea, and like Bob Proctor, our mentor, talks about, right? Thoughts tend to, with intention, to materialize. And through consistent behavior, all he did was start working out.
Yeah.
And every day though.
Yes.
And lost 37 pounds, probably lost even more, but gained muscle. And he looks terrific. But in the interview, I said to him, without ever talking to him, I said, but your relationships have also gotten better. Your job has gotten better. Because he changed his physical frequency, then portrayed into the subconscious and unconscious, and started shooting out and attracting all of these things. In other words, he got rid of the interference between which that he was already connected to. How do you do that?
Well, that's really interesting because someone, I'm sure this happens to you, a lot of times people go, well, how did you get on that stage? You know, how did you get to do this? And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I'm just being me, and people see how I'm showing up, and I'm being asked to be on this stage, not like chasing it. So that more of pull is more powerful than push. And I think if there's one thing that I really want people to get is just stay true to yourself and not try to push so hard. I see way too many people, as we know, there's just I was just at this event yesterday for about 40 moms, and you could just tell that there was so much of the comparison game. And I was like, just stop. You know, sometimes you got to slow down to speed up.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know about you,
but call it stop, drop, and roll.
Oh, I love that.
Because my mind, body, soul's on fire. My mom told me, you're on fire, stop, drop, and roll. I stop, I drop, and then I roll back into the right trajectory.
I love that.
Which is why I meditate too, because I want to find in my meditation where I want to be all day, and go back there instead of the places I don't want to be.
The one thing I want to share, a cool tool, I don't know if you use it, is, and I just interviewed him for my podcast, was that Nick Ortner, who talks about the tapping solution. Are you familiar with Nick?
Nick's been in my office. And
he used to be a crew member like forever ago. And I love what he talks about in the tapping process about really you have to identify like the part of you that's scared, like or maybe the negative part first, because sometimes we do positive, and then we never acknowledge the part of us that like, I'm scared to go in to do this. Like I did it right before I came in here. I was like, okay, I want to make sure,
right on.
And so doing that tapping and using on the resources, right? We always talk about the person that's most resourceful wins. I mean, look at how many amazing resources there are now. Podcasts, magazines,
books,
books,
audiobooks,
everything, right? There's so many resources.
YouTube. It's interesting that you say that, because I find I really am in a life mission to impact people to be happy. So to impact you, one of the 1,000 people that I know will impact thousands to be happy, because I believe that'll change the collective consciousness. You can't just tell someone who's depressed, anxious, or even suicidal, oh, just look at the glass half full, right? And I do see this a lot.
Right.
People try to motivate, not inspire.
Right.
And so they'll say, and it'll work in a very short amount of time, but the quantum memory of that person's depression and the subconscious beliefs that they have and the activities that are inputted into their conscious all will put them right back into the same temperature, which is depressed. The only way, I believe, is exactly what you're teaching people to do, and I want to reiterate it, is let's identify the ego-based emotion.
Yep.
Right? And then let's practice ending it.
Right.
Right? Practice ending fear, practice ending inferiority, practice ending superiority, separation, anger, frustration, anxiety, depression. Let's forget about looking at it half full.
Right.
That's the result of all the hard work of ending the ego-based interference that you have. And I feel with people, if you lower the bar, give them one thing to attack and end, instead of this overall, it's real easy, just do what I'm doing. I wake up every morning and say, this is gonna be the best day of my life. That is motivational.
Right.
And it means something to you and
right.
I. But if someone's there about to slit their wrist, all it's gonna do is separate them more from us.
Absolutely.
And you're so good, I find, at showing, these courages, just like raising a gentleman, but even more importantly, the courage to look at yourself introspectively and say, I'm gonna practice ending this thing. Then I'm gonna move on to something else. And as we practice ending each of those, it aggregates into, hey, I wake up every morning and pray to God for 10 people I can help, and this is gonna be a day that's amazing. This is the best day of my life, and I'm gonna be 1% better.
Right.
That's the end result.
Right.
It's motivational.
Right.
But it's not gonna help somebody get there. What's the number one piece of advice that you give to kind of, in this philosophy? Thank you. Explain.
I think that
and how do you find a mentor? These are all questions these entrepreneurs ask me every day.
It just makes me, I'm just like, everybody, somebody needs one person to believe in them. Like, I can't tell you how much it means to me that, like, with Quinn, you've become a huge inspiration.
Quinn's her son, obviously.
I'm known as the ocean of emotion.
Me too. Don't make me cry. I tell my kids, it doesn't work unless I cry. Let's stop crying, Dad. You're embarrassing me.
I think lots of times people don't know where to go. I think if there's anything that we can do is like just go out there and just offer it to people. Like these moms yesterday, I was like, look, I'm here. Here's my phone number. I don't care what's going on. You don't know me. We come from different worlds, but I just want you to know I've been there. I get where you're at. So however it is, even if it's, I love my daughter, my littlest one. How
old is she?
She is 12.
Okay.
And she decided to make soaps once, just FYI, I would not recommend it. And then the hurricane happened. She goes, Mommy, Facebook Live me. And I'm like, all right. So she goes, I'm raising money for all of the animals affected by the hurricane. Next thing I know, we've got like 3,500 orders, for soaps with regards to, but the reason I say that is all of her friends go, can you teach us so that we can make soaps to help the animals? And I think mentorship you don't have to wait till you're in college. You don't have
till you're Bob Proctor at 85 years old, right?
You can start being a mentor and teaching our kids to be mentors to each other as well. I think we start, look, what if I wouldn't have let Quinn, what if I wouldn't have given him an old laptop or $40 a week, for that? Am I supposed to say, wait till you're out of college and then you can start your online things, but right? So I think that we need to start mentorship earlier. We need to encourage our kids to mentor each other. We need to speak up. We need to be there to just offer ourselves as a mentor and know, That's to me is what there's.
I agree. I tell people ask for help. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give to an 18-year-old, 28, 38, 48, or 58. People just are afraid to ask for help because it makes them feel inferior. Last question, and I'm going to end where I started in the family side of things. It's easy to mentor people you don't know or you just met or you work with. And I do a lot of life coaching, business advisory, mentoring. It's a different beast for those 4 entrepreneurs that you're raising. Mentorship means something different. And as much as we want to mentor, there's another side of what we have to do, which is parent.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are parents, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are kids that watch and listen and like your son, learn from this. How do you see that relationship as a parent mentor, and what's the advice that you would give for parent mentors? Because I think, to me, this is going to change the world. It's like, the courage to raise a gentleman. To me, even bigger than that would be your advice on the courage to parent your child.
Well,
not befriend.
Well, I think that we all need boundaries. I mean, look at sports as an example, right? You got to know the rules of the game. And I think that people have to have courage to be like, my job is to, in the whole example, to give them roots, but give them wings to fly. And so I think that the first thing would be, and it's hard. I mean, I know sometimes I've probably been, especially when I went through my divorce, that I just was like, oh no, like these, you guys, I can make sure. And I kind of wasn't as strict as I needed to be, but it was a season. And then I also learned that there were consequences if I kept that behavior going with regards to things. But so that's the one thing I say, you got to set boundaries. Yeah. Anything, you got to know the rules of the game. The other thing is, I want to be the hero for my kids, right? It's great that we're friends, but I don't just love my kids, I respect my kids. And I respect them and I treat them and let them know that I help them with their vision of what's possible. But I say that biggest compliment that I always have was when Josh was applying, my eldest was applying for this camp. And I go, Josh, you need to call them. And you got to do the interview. And he's in the back of the car. He's like, no, now, Mom. And I'm like, now, you need to do it now, right? And he's in the back of the car, and I heard him say, my mom. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck is he saying? Like, what was it? And then I hear him say, because she does what she says she's going to do. So if you expect, I think respect goes both ways as well. I think sometimes you say, my kid should respect me and they should do this. No, it goes both ways, right? And I think that really just looking at your values and then teaching your kids, this is the rules of the game, right? I mean, why do people enroll their kids into sports? I don't know now. Like, I mean, we're here and I love sports, but I think that you've got to, as a parent, you need to walk your talk, Don't ask your kids to do anything that you want to do. Same old, look, there's no new information, right? Yeah. It's the same stuff. But,
long practice.
But my big thing is that I want to be the hero that my kids seek in the world. They're not out there looking for someone else on Instagram, but they look and go, my mom lives it, and therefore because I see that she has a work ethic, that she's empathetic, right? That she's doing the right thing, and then I become the model for them that I don't even have to tell them what to do because they're already doing it themselves.
You're a hero through love and respect, which is amazing. I remember my 8-year-old, he's 9 now, saying, someone said, oh, so is your daddy your best friend? And I was cringing, but he said no, but he's the best dad.
Oh.
So, yes. All right, the emotion of oceans here. Not only do you have the courage to raise a gentleman, but you actually have the courage to raise 4 entrepreneurs, but more importantly, inspire the world as a speaker, author, podcaster, all the variety of things that you are doing and will do and have done. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on The Playbook. This is Loren Lahav with David Meltzer, Entrepreneurs, The Playbook.